Yeah. So I have created this class called static and non-static in the day2 project under the source folder. So first we'll see what static is, what non-static is. Then we'll see the concepts of object-oriented programming and see how static and non-static are used. Right. Every class, every Java class has two things. Right. It has some global variables and it has some functions. Okay, I hope you have watched the video number 2 which I asked you to watch yesterday. Fine. I have giving you a little bit brief about functions. Functions are independent execution units. Like we can have a function called public void say calculate sum. It accepts an integer a and integer b and it calculates the sum of both of them. So this will calculate sum of a and b. Okay, I would again repeat that I always tell this in the class. People who have got absolutely no idea about programming. Okay, if you are like you have never done programming, you have never done C language, you don't even know what int is and how stuff works in programming languages, then I would request you to take the videos rather than going for the course. Okay, I always suggest this. You know what? For these all the modules, I have also made the videos. Okay, take the videos, start watching the videos. Hold on. Just give me 2 minutes. I want to talk to those people who have absolutely no programming background, because people generally come for online training with no programming background. In 20 hours, for me also, to cover complete Java in depth, okay, and from the very basics, basically, it's very tough because I need to concentrate on Selenium as well. So I always suggest those people first learn Java by taking videos. Watch first few 10, 12 videos, get a background, and then you can join the training by paying the remaining amount. Whatever is the difference between the training cost and the videos cost, you can pay that and join the online training. Okay, so online training is good, but it's good for people who have a slight background of programming language. Okay. So this is the class static and non-static. This is a function. This type of function is known as non-static function. Okay, and if I write a function like public static void print name, and this function simply prints Selenium, for example. So this will be my static function. So non-static is the one which has got no static keyword, and static is the one which has got static keyword in front of it. Okay, these are the functions in a class. Similarly, we can have global variables. I can have a global variable like int x and string z. If I put static in front of a global variable, this is known as a static global variable, and this is known as a non-static global variable. So these variables are not part of functions, they are in parallel to the functions but inside the class. Okay, so there are two types of variables: static global variables, non-static global variables, and two types of functions: static functions and non-static functions. Alright, now what static is, how it is used, why do we use it? Okay, in what circumstances will we be using it, right? So I'm going to discuss this right now with you. Okay, so I'm starting with the object-oriented programming, right? To discuss the concept of static and non-static and how it is used, let us make a simple class, a very simple class called house.java. Okay. house.java. I am making this simple file. Okay. Now in this file, what can I have? I can have functions as well as global variables. Let's start with global variables. Okay. I'll make a simple global variable called int house number. Okay. And I'll make a new class called test house with the main function. Okay, yesterday we saw that the control always comes inside the main function when you run the program. Okay, this is just like C language in which the control comes inside the main function. House.java has got no main function, nothing. It's a standalone file. You just cannot execute it directly by clicking on the run button. Okay, you can execute your programs by clicking on this run button on the top. Alright, so house.java is a simple standalone file, right? And test house.java, in this what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to create an object of house class. Okay, so what do you mean by creating the object of the house class is that you will, the syntax is like this, you write new house. So I created the object. Now in the memory, okay, you have to visualize it like this, that in the memory an object of house class will be formed, and inside it you will have a variable called house number. Okay, so but hold on. Similarly, I can create, suppose I create 3 such objects. Okay, so in the memory there will be 3 such memory locations having the variable house number in them. Alright, so this is how the memory locations they look like. Okay, the variable is 1 in house.java, the variable is 1, but 3 memory locations are formed, and in each memory location the non-static variable house number is there, and these 3 things are known as the objects of the class house. Alright, but you cannot access these objects, you need to give these objects object references in order to access the internal contents of the objects. To access the internal contents of the objects, you have to write like this: house say h1 equals to this, house h2 equals to this, alright, and house h3 equals to this. Fine, these are the 3 houses. Fine, so okay, so these are the 3 houses h1, h2, h3 right now. So in the memory location now it will look like this, that is you have got 3 objects references h1, h2 and h3 pointing towards individual objects. Okay, so the moral is h1, h2 and h3 are not objects. This is what people they do, they say that object h1 and object h2. These are the references to the object. What is the reference? It will get clear to you in some time, it will be more clear to you. Okay, and when I write h1 dot, I will get the option house number over here. Okay, suppose I write h1 dot house number 100 and h2 dot house number is 200 and h3 dot house number is 300. Okay, so these are very important concepts, because if you understand these in Selenium will also be easy. Alright, if you now look at the memory, what will happen is that this thing out here will have the house number as 100, this thing will have house number 200, and this thing will have 300. Okay, so if you right now go here and print, you write system.out.println h1.house number and h2 and h3 dot house number. If you write like this, okay, h1 dot house number, h2 dot house number, and h3 dot house number. If you run this code, it prints 100, 200, and 300. Okay, which is absolutely correct. Now, if I write h1 equals to h2 over here, so what will happen in the memory is that h1 reference will be removed from here and h1 will now point to the location where h2 is pointing. Okay, so this is the difference between object and object reference. This thing over here, it creates the object in the memory, but these three things h1, h2 and h3 are the references which point towards that object. Okay, so now if I write in the next line the same thing, I just put a little bit of demarcation. So h1 dot house number and h2 dot house number will be same this time. If you run this, it will print 100, 200, 300 in the beginning, but after star it will print 200, 200 and 300. So h1 now points towards the location where h2 is pointing. And what happened to this object, the first one? It's just hanging in the air. Nobody can access it right now. It will be destroyed by Java. Objects which hang in the air, they are destroyed by the Java garbage collector. There is a garbage collector in Java. It's an internal thing. It destroys all the objects automatically, which are not having any references. So this helps us to clear the memory. Okay. So if I point if h1 got removed from here, it points to this place, then this object will be destroyed. Okay. Now, suppose I write h2 dot house number is 500. So now what has h2 done? h2 has modified the house number out here. Instead of 200, it has modified it to 500. So it will be updated for h1 as well. Okay, so whether h2 changes the object or whether h1 changes the object, okay, both the objects can change this. Sorry, both the references can change the state of an object. Okay, so if I write the same thing now, h1 dot house number and h2 dot house number, both of these will be printing 500. So if you run this code, you see that, right? So this is a very simple example on what object is. Okay, object is something like you can say, generally people say instance of a class or something. Basically, object is something which holds all the non-static members of a class. Okay, let's go back to house.java. What is this? This is a non-static global variable. Okay, and similarly I can create a non-static function like this: public void say buy house int cost. Okay, and maybe I can declare one more variable int type. over here, the type of house, string type. Okay, and inside it I'll write system.out.println buying house plus the house number of that house. Okay, so this is what I have written, buying house, the house number of that house. Okay, so now when I go to this class out here, let's make one more class called test house 2. Okay, I'm making a class called test house 2, and in this was the house.java class. Okay, in test house 2 again I have the main function, and I'll just make one object of the class. Say house h1 equals to new house. So this is how you make the object. The class name, reference name equals to new class name. Okay, and if I write over here h1 dot house number equals to 100, h1 dot type equals to luxury house. Okay, and h1 dot I have added the function buy house. So all these non-static things of the class will be a part of the object. Okay, whatever non-static things are present in the class, whether it is a non-static function or non-static variables, right, they will be accessible by writing the object reference dot. Okay, so buy house, say I put the cost something like this, right, and when I run this program, okay, before running it, let's go back to the memory and see how it looks like. This will be my object, right? It will have a house number variable which is equal to 100 right now. It will have a type variable which is equal to luxury right now, and it will have a function called buy house. Okay, so when I call this buy house function, this buy house function will print the house number which is of the same h1 object, because h1 object will call buy house, so it will print buying the house 100. Okay, so when you run this code, it prints buying house 100 because buy house function of h1 was called and h1 had the house number as 100. Similarly, if I repeat the same step like this, house h2 equals to new house, and h2 dot house number is 300, and h2 dot type is low budget, and h2 dot buy house I write like this. So now h2 is calling the buy house function. So the buy house function is referring the house number. It will refer the house number of h2. In the memory, one more object will be formed. Okay, it will also have a house number which will be equal to 300. It will also have the variable type which will be low budget, and it will also have the buy house function. Okay, so the object references will be like this. h2 will be pointing to this and h1 will be pointing to this. When h1 calls when h1 is calling the buy house function, then the variables of h1 will be accessed by the buy house, and if h2 is calling buy house, then the house number of h2 is referred over here. Okay, So this is how, look, the function is same, but it's like virtualization. You create as many objects as you can, and you can create duplicate copies in the memory. Okay, so this is your house.java having two things: non-static global variables and non-static function. So the crux is that non-static stuff is a part of the object. It is a part of the object. It resides inside the object. And if you create 10 objects, then you will have 10 different copies of non-static things inside 10 different objects. Okay. To access the objects, you need object references like H1 and H2 I have created over here. Okay. Now, what is static? I created this static and non-static class, right? I told you there are two types of global variables. One are non-static global variables, one are static global variables, and two types of functions: non-static functions and static functions. I talked about non-static stuff right now. Now, what is static? Okay, say suppose I have a global variable called string country. Okay, now we all know that say in test house 2.java, okay, H1 or whatever objects I am creating, okay, whatever house objects I am going to create, all will have the country as, say, suppose UK. H1 will also have the country UK. H2 will also have the country UK. Suppose I create more objects H3, H4, H5, right? Every object will have a country UK. So instead of again and again keeping the country variable inside every object, okay, you make it static. What static is? Static is something which is common for all the objects. Okay, static will reside somewhere over here in the memory. Alright, it will not be a part of the object, and all the objects can access it from that single memory location. It is common for all the objects. Okay, so what we do is, instead of making the country non-static like this, we will remove it from here. We will remove it from here like this. We will go to house.java and we will make static string country. So you see that it comes in italics. Static things, they are written in italics. And if you go to test house, then if you want to assign countries their the objects their country and all, okay. If I write right now out here, I will talk about static. Okay, let's demark it, and you can access the static stuff directly without creating the object. Okay, static can be accessed without creating object. Why? Because it is not the part of the object. Okay, static is something which is present at a common memory location. It is not the part of an object. You don't need to create the object of the class to access static. You can access it directly. You can write house, that is the name of the class. If you put dot, you will get the static variable country over there. House.country equals to UK. So what will happen is, all objects which are formed or which are to be formed will have country as UK. Right. So if I write system.out.println h1.country and h2.country, both will print UK. But the thing is, it is discouraged. It is not encouraged to use the static variables like this by the object. You should not use the static variables by object. You should always use them with the class name dot the static stuff. You see, you get a yellow line out here below country. This is a warning message. If you move your mouse over here, you will get the warning message that the static field house.country should be accessed in a static way. Okay, so static is something which is the part of the object, right? in the next line, if I change this thing, house dot country equals to USA, then all the objects will have the country as US. Okay, if I run this code, first two times, if you look at this carefully in console, first two times this will print UK, and then after that it will print US. Okay, so you have to be a little bit careful with static as well. It is not the part of the object. The things which you need, that all the thing which should be common for all the objects, it should be static. Okay. Similarly, I can create static function out here. By creating a static function, I mean that it will be common for all the objects. Okay, for example, public static pay tax void. So you can write system.out.println paying tax plus tax SCM. Okay, so you can simply write over here, you can call this function house dot pay tax. Simple. Class name dot the static function. So all houses will kind of pay tax. It's just a hypothetical example. Fine. So basically this is utilized in Selenium. Alright, I'll just talk about Selenium in some time. Okay. So we studied three things. First, how to create objects. You can create objects by just writing new, the class name, and then you can assign references to the objects. H1, H2 and H3 will be the references, right? In objects only only non-static things are present. Okay. We saw it out here. We created two objects, H1 and H2. H1 has had its own house number, own type, and you try to buy it at some cost. Okay, and similarly H2 had its own own house number, own type, and its own cost of buying. Right. So this is how you can work with non-static. Non-static, diagrammatically, it is the part of an object, and static is something which is at a common memory location and can be accessed directly with class name dot the variable. Generally working with Selenium, 90% of the times, 90 to 95% of the times, we'll just be working with non-static. Okay, but this doesn't mean that you should not be knowing static, because static is also there in Selenium, right? Everything is there. Okay. Now, first of all, yesterday I had taught you how to configure Selenium in Eclipse. I taught you about an API, about class file, about jar file, what jar file is, right? So you can, right. Now, the thing is, we will now configure Selenium in this project. Okay. I'll right click on it, I'll go to properties and go to Java build path and add the jar files of Selenium the way I added yesterday. I told you how to download these jar files and configure Selenium in your Eclipse workspace. Okay, let me tell this again, because few people are new, right? All you need to do is that you need to go to Selenium website. Just go to Google and type download Selenium. Okay. So you go here and out here you have, yeah, in this you will have the Java client version. Click on this download link and you will be able to download all the jar files of Selenium. Okay. So the libraries of Selenium basically. You download it, extract it at a particular location. In my PC, I have it at. I'm using a different operating system than regular people do for some reason. So this is the folder which you will get. Inside it, you will get these two jar files over here. Along with that, please note, okay, please note, there are other jar files present in the libs folder. Okay, so you go to your day 2 project and go to the properties of this project. Right click on the project and go to the properties from here, or the shortcut is Alt Enter. Okay, go to the properties and go to Java build path option out here. Okay, and under this click on the libraries tab and click on add external jars and add all the jar files of Selenium, the two jar files out here, the libraries, and inside the libs folder, or add all of them. Under the reference library section, you will see that the jar files of Selenium have been added. So that's all. This is how you configure Selenium. Nothing else. It's not installed. There is no exe file for Selenium. Many people think that there is an exe just like QTP or something. It's not an exe. They're just pre-inbuilt libraries which you have to use. For example, I created the class house.java out here, and in test2 house.java, I created the object of house class. In these libraries, there are many classes. If I expand the jar file, you will see many class files. There are many classes which you can use. You can create the objects of those classes, right? For example, let's go to the Selenium website and let's go inside this Java doc. This is the documentation for Selenium. Okay, go inside the Java doc, and these are all the classes in Selenium which are present in those jar files. There are a lot of stuff. Okay, for example, there is one class file known as Firefox driver. Okay, this is the Firefox driver class. This helps you to test your applications on Firefox. Okay, this is an inbuilt class inside Selenium. You have downloaded Selenium, you have configured Selenium in your project, so you can use this class. You can create the object of this class. Right? Let's do that. I'll create a new class called Test Selenium. Now house.java was the file which I made, okay, but Firefox driver.java is the file which is inbuilt. Whoever made Selenium made that file, okay, so you really don't have to worry. All you need to do is you need to create the object of this class. Simple. You have included this class, and this class is present in one of these jar files. You really don't have to worry where it is present. You just have to write Firefox driver, say d1 equals to new Firefox driver. You create the object of this class. You get errors. You move your mouse over the error and you will get an option to import this file. Right? That is, if you move your mouse, you will have the option. The first option, read the first option, import Firefox driver. Okay? You simply click on this and it will be imported. It's a case sensitive. If you make D out here, if you make it in lowercase, this will not work. Okay, so it's Firefox driver like this, right? So when you run this code, this will open up a blank Firefox window. See that just by creating the object of Firefox driver, I was able to open up a blank Firefox window. Similarly, if I create three objects D1, D2 and D3 and run the code, this will open up 3 blank Firefox windows. You see that these 3 windows have been opened and these 3 are blank windows. So this is very simple. You just need to create the objects of the classes and you will get the results. What if I don't declare the references? What will happen? Will the browser open? Yes, browser will open, because the responsibility of opening browser is just by creating the object of the class. The object is responsible to open the browser. That's it. But you will not be able to do anything with the browser because you will not have the reference of the object. It will just open blank windows. That's it. Nothing else. You won't be able to navigate to any website. You won't be able to close the browser or something, right? So in order to do all that stuff, you need to have object references. I'll have to write Firefox driver d1 equals to this, d2 equals to this, d3 equals to this. Okay, let's take 2 objects. That's it. If I write d1 dot, I will get all the non-static functions which are present in Firefox driver. Okay, I'll talk about these functions as we proceed with the course. I'll not talk about all of them right now. Okay, but one of them is get. This will actually, if you have studied QTP, it is similar to the navigate function in QTP. Get will take you to a URL. You specify the URL, say http gmail.com and d2.get http google.com. Are you not able to hear me? So if you run this code, so d1 will go to Gmail simply. So one browser will navigate to Google, other one has navigated to Gmail. Just because we had the object reference, we could do anything. Okay. So if I write d1.quit, this will finish off the browser session for d1, and d2.quit will finish off the browser session for d2. Okay. So d1 and d2 are 2 objects. These will basically close the browsers. Okay. These will basically close the browsers. So when you run this again, both the browsers will open and both the browsers will close after navigating to different websites. See that both the browsers close. Now, what all browsers are supported like this? Can we use close? Yes, there is a function called d1.close. But a catch in this, if there are 5, suppose I open a website. Okay, on that website I click on a link. Fine. After clicking on a link, I open a pop-up. So I have 2 windows in my current session, right? I have the main window and I have the pop-up window. If I use d1.quit, then all the windows will close. But if I use d1.close, it will close just the window on which I have the focus. That is the main window. The pop-up will not be closed. Okay. So this never ends the session. This ends the session. I will talk about it when I talk about pop-up handling in Selenium, how to do tab browsing and pop-up handling. Then at that point of time, these 2 things will be clear. This quit will just completely close the session. Everything will end. Alright. And close will actually close the browser. The current browser on which the control is there. It will not completely end the session. Right? So, okay, welcome. So this thing over here has got, now what all browsers are supported? Chrome is supported, IE is supported, Safari is supported, and Opera. Now, similar to for Chrome, we have an internal class known as Chrome driver. For Firefox, we have a class called Firefox driver, which we just saw. It is stable. Chrome is also stable. You know why am I talking about stability over here? It's because WebDriver is new, right? But it's too good. It's very good than RC. iDriver is also stable. Many people think that it is not, but it is stable. In 2.22 release, this is the current version of Selenium is 2.23. From 2.22, they stabilized the iDriver a lot. Okay, and Safari, it's been recently launched. The class responsible is Safari driver, and it is unstable right now. There are many things which do not happen in Safari, like if you have to move your mouse or if you have to work with tab windows, pop-ups and all. Opera. Well, Opera is a browser. Obviously, the driver is Opera driver. But this driver has not been made by the guys who made Selenium. Okay? It's an independent driver which uses which is obviously like it's like this. It comes with the jar files obviously, but Opera driver has been implemented by the people who made Opera browser. If you look at Opera driver, then Opera driver is in opera.com. It's not with Selenium, although this driver class, it gets downloaded with Selenium as well. When you download the libraries of Selenium, you download Opera driver as well, but it is provided by the opera.com or Opera browser, the people who made the Opera browser, right? So this is unstable. This is not very stable, right? So only Safari and Opera are a little bit unstable. Everything is stable. Safari, I think in next 3 to 4 releases it will be done. Okay, I cannot comment about Opera because Selenium guys, they are actually not fixing it. They are actually not looking into it. It is provided by the vendor. Okay, so I'll talk about all these drivers now. Fine. Firefox driver was simple. Create the object and use it. Okay. Now Chrome driver. Who made Selenium? WebDriver. Basically, Google is behind it, right? And they make sure that everything works on Chrome. Okay. Many times people they are a little bit confused and they think that Chrome is not stable. Why? Because of this. I'll just create a new class called Test Chrome. So Chrome driver. If you look in the documentation, then Chrome driver is the class inside it. Okay, this is the Chrome driver class, right? And you can write over here Chrome driver d1 equals to new Chrome driver. You move your mouse and over the error and import Chrome driver. Fine. If you run this code, if I just run this much, when I was running the Firefox driver like this, blank Firefox was opening. But when I am running Chrome driver, hold on. Nothing has happened. If you look at the output, I get an error. This at this point of time, many people think that's fine. WebDriver is not good. Okay. illegal state exception, read the error carefully, or never just run away from the error, read it carefully. The exception is illegal state exception, and the description, it clearly says that the path to Chrome driver executable must be set by the webdriver.chrome.driver system property. This is a system property. Okay. Now what has happened is, just a minute, I need to get a path URL. 1 minute. Just a minute. Yeah, out here I had made this project for Chrome. Yeah, this is the URL. I'll also share this URL over WebEx chat with everybody. Okay. This is the Chrome driver zip files. Okay. You need to download this in order to work with Chrome. Right. Depending on your operating system, you download it. I had downloaded this one for Windows. Right. I extracted it and kept it in my C drive under the Chrome driver. It's an exe file. Don't double click on it. You don't have to install it. Okay, just keep the exe file. Just extract the zip file and keep the exe file. Don't extract it. Sorry, don't try to install it. Okay. Secondly, make sure that Chrome is installed on your machine. Okay. This Chrome driver.exe file is provided by the guys who made Selenium. Right. This has to be used in order to work with Chrome. Okay, so just keep it at a particular location. In my system, it is in C drive, Chrome driver, and you have to write in your Eclipse like this. You have to set a system property, that is system dot set property. What was the error? This property, webdriver.chrome.driver, comma C drive Chrome driver slash Chrome driver.exe. So you have to set the system property, tell Selenium where the Chrome driver.exe provided by Selenium guys, where it is present. Okay, and you have to make sure that this thing, that is Chrome, is installed on your machine. And make sure that Chrome is installed and you have the exe file at the right location. And when you run this now, you see you will get a log over here. Started Chrome driver on this port number. This is the version of Chrome, and I think this has also opened. Chrome has also opened. Right? It also creates a log file for Chrome. Okay, so the Chrome log file is under my project only. Suppose if I write after this d1.get a URL, say HTTP. Always remember, mentioning the protocol is very important. I just cannot write google.com over here. This will not work. In QTP it works, but in Selenium you have to write HTTP and you have to give the protocol. Right. So this is the non-static function, and after that I can write d1.quit. Right. So when you run this now, so this will open up a Chrome browser and take you to Google. It will work fine now. Okay. It will certainly work fine, and it closes in the end. If you go to this location, there will be a log file generated which will tell you what happened. Don't get confused with what it is written. Just have to, when you encounter an error, right, this is very helpful. Okay, these are the various settings in Chrome. Okay, and this is your session ID, and with response, this is the session ID, right? Every Selenium session has a session ID, right? So we were going to the Google URL google.com, and you know, when we continue with this course, you will have better log and you can see what has happened with the Chrome, right? So its Chrome driver is little bit different than Firefox driver. You have to set the system property and all to work with it. Okay. Right now I am working on Windows Server environment. That is even older one, because I have some load runner scripts which I have to run on the server. So I don't have Windows 7 with me. Because of that, I don't have IE8 with me. I have rather IE6 with me. But working with IE, there is an internal class. I'll tell you. You can try it on your machine. For Internet Explorer driver is there. Okay. Similarly to Firefox driver, you just have to create the object of that driver and use it. Okay. Only thing is, in Windows 7, for using Internet Explorer driver, I cannot use it because I have IE6 with me because of the server on which I am working right now. Okay. So because of this, in Internet Explorer driver, you have this thing. You have to turn off. Better turn it off. Okay. It should not be turned off, but it should be at the same level. Turn off the protected mode in IE8. Okay. Just read how to turn off the protected mode in IE8. Go to this topic. Turn it off. Okay, you have to turn the protected mode in IE8. You have to turn it off in order to make Selenium scripts work in IE. Okay, so better do that and then try this kind of coding, and it will also work in IE, right? Safari driver, I am not talking about it right now. I'll make a video on it and release it on my website. It is not stable. Okay, you need to have first of all, you need to be registered as an Apple developer to work with Safari driver. I registered on it 2 days back. It's very easy, but it's not so stable. I was saying it's got some problems, right? Normal navigation is fine. If you just have to work in one browser, it's almost stable. But if you have to work with multiple browsers, tab windows and all, this thing is giving issues, right? So, well, this thing is absolutely better than RC. If anybody has worked on Selenium RC, it was not so simple. You had to start a server. Sometimes the server used to never start. I used to take online classes in RC as well. In online classes, sometimes the server never used to start. I had no other option. Sometimes you had a URL to forcibly stop the server or something, but in the end, if nothing used to work, I used to log out of my machine and join in again and take the class, send the URLs again. So it was a headache working with RC, especially the server part. And people had to use a lot of JavaScript as well in RC. I'll talk about JavaScript later on. That user extensions and all they had to use. But in WebDriver, they have reduced the work a lot. Okay, so I think I'll end it up for today. Almost. Thank you. Time is left, but I think it's more than enough.